Okay, so hi everyone. Thank you for joining our first user clinic of 2025. I'm Joanna, your host for today. So before we begin, just a few housekeeping matters. As this is an interactive session, we welcome your questions and active participation. Please feel free to ask your questions in the Zoom chat at any time or during the live Q&A session at the end, where we will also address questions asked in the chat. Do help us mute your mic if you are not speaking. Kindly note that this session is recorded as well for internal review, and just like our previous user clinics, we will be posting snippets or the whole session online. Now, I will introduce our ArcLab and our guest speakers for today, after which we will proceed to the sharing on how to create good digital training. This will be followed by a brief introduction of ArcLab's platform features for those who may be new to us, and we will lastly end with a Q&A and a short survey. Do stay tuned to the end as well for a special giveaway. So before we move on to the main agenda for today, here is a short intro about ArcLab. ArcLab is a mobile learning and nano-learning platform built for a deskless workforce. Equipped with extensive features and AI, ArcLab aims to help trainers, L&D managers, and designers like yourself to create a cohesive and effective digital and bite-sized learning module. If anyone is new to ArcLab, please feel free to sign up for the free trial via the link we have just pasted in the Zoom chat. Now, let us introduce today's guest speaker, Martin Goh. Martin Goh is a consultant at Deloitte Learning Solutions, and I'll be handing the time over to him in a short while to share with us his valuable insights on creating good digital learning. Hosting and sharing the discussion will be James, the CEO of ArcLab. Let me now hand over the time to James.
All right. Firstly, a quick word of thanks to Joanna. Right, she's ArcLab's digital marketing lead, and she has really put together this user clinic webinar, really making my job very easy. And secondly, to all of you, welcome and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to spend time with ArcLab. We're a mobile learning company. We have offices in Singapore and Malaysia, and I spend half my time in Singapore, half in Kuala Lumpur, where I'm heading next week till end of the month. So today we're dialing in from Singapore, and I'm curious where in the world we're dialing in from. If you don't mind typing into the chat which country you are right now. So while everybody is typing, a big thank you to our guest speaker, Martin, for sharing your insights for this user clinic. We hold regular user clinics to share best practices about L&D and also what we have been building at ArcLab. But most importantly, user clinic webinars are a way for us to learn from one another and to build community. And again, very pleased to welcome Martin. Martin Goh is a consultant at Deloitte Learning Solutions. And Martin is no stranger to ArcLab. In life, right, sometimes you get lucky. And ArcLab got lucky a few years ago, and when Martin knocked on our doors. And I had the privilege to work with Martin, who was employee number 1 here at ArcLab for a few years. He left a visible mark on our platform and the company. He played a big part in our growth during those early years. So maybe a short interview of Martin first. So hi, Martin. Martin is just sitting next to me.
Hey, James, thanks so much for having me back here to contribute to this growing community. For the record, ArcLab was my number 1 employer as well. And it's been 5 years since we began the journey together, working as a learning designer and having the chance to work with a lot of our users to build their learning modules. I see some of the customers that I previously served in attendance. So very happy to see you. Thanks so much for your continued support. So today at Deloitte, I'm part of a L&D consulting team offering a range of consulting services, and developing digital learning experiences continues to be a big part of what I do. And I thought there's a really apt opportunity to consolidate and share some of the insights and experience that I've gained over the years.
Thank you. Martin has prepared some sharing for us. So today's topic is about how to create good digital learning for our workforce. And this is meant to be interactive. Martin has prepared some slides, but if you have any questions at all, I would welcome you to type it into the Zoom chat, and we will consolidate it for Q&A segment later. If you would also like to ask in person, I will ask that you wait for a short while. And without further ado, I will hand the time over to Martin. Martin, over to you.
All right, thanks, James. All right, so first, I think to all the attendees here today, whether you're directly or indirectly involved in the development of digital learning for your workforce, you are actually playing a very integral role, because digital learning today has become an inseparable component of most organizations' training solution. And the design of effective and impactful digital learning is a whole discipline of its own. To continue today's session, I'm really be focusing on sharing some of the quick wins and tricks that you can apply right away to level up your existing content. Now, before we even embark on the design process proper, there are two critical pointers to address first. And that is whether your solution is the right fit to your business challenge, and whether it is tailored accordingly to the profile of your target audience. So we'll start with the former first. Now, training relative to the implementation of a new technology or rehaul of an established process in your company is often viewed as a quick win by the leadership due to the lower amount of cost and effort involved. But if training isn't the right solution or the right solution alone, outcomes can be compromised and you risk undermining the credibility of your whole entire training function. So here's an example. I illustrated this as a meme on the right here. So one of a client following a company-wide password audit, they actually found that their staff are constantly reusing the similar passwords, which kind of increased the risk of password attacks and account hijacks. So the ask from them was to provide their staff with more password hygiene training. But this isn't the best solution here, because it is an inherent limitation in all of us humans to not be able to remember so many new and complex passwords to all our different accounts. And the more effective solution here to this problem was to simply implement a multi-factor authentication technology, which almost completely eliminates the risk of account compromises. So let us try to avoid knee-jerk reflexes and focus really on getting down to the root cause of a business challenge first. Now, likewise, even the most well-designed learning experience will be ineffective if they are not catered to the right profile of target audience. And this is especially so for your digital learnings, because its scalability often leads to this one-size-fits-all problem. So here are some actual instances that reflect this misalignment. So in the public service, for example, we have all officers having to undergo a mandatory ICT policy training, where the bulk of it was to talk about the history, the evolution of the policy, and how they go about interpreting the standards and guidelines. So if you think about the folks on the ground, your policemen, your soldiers, your firefighters, there's close to no relevance and applicability for them. So similarly, for one of a bank we had worked with, the cybersecurity training package they had was littered with excessive technical jargons. And for the non-IT folks from your HR, customer service, and admin side, I mean, they certainly lack the technical proficiency to appreciate and understand the content. And of course, we also often encounter, English-only training packages in organizations, which creates a problem for those who are less conversant in English language. But that said, there's an increasing trend of companies investing and implementing in role-based trainings and also providing more accessibility options for their workforce, which certainly is an encouraging sign as a whole. Now, getting into the design process, Now, the use of content hooks in your learning design. Now, I'm sure we have all come across at least one of these thumbnails on the screen, whether is it on your YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok. So, content hooks are essentially very succinct yet catchy phrases that are designed to grab your attention and encourage audience to engage with their content. So, your marketers and your content creators are experts at this, and I hold this belief that learning design in the modern world, especially in the digital space and with a younger generation of workforce, it warrants us to put on the hats of not just an educator, but also that of a marketer and a content creator. So, a quick way to start is to inject hooks into the framing of your learning content. Now, in this, let me show you in this next slide here. Now, in this example at the top, so we kind of swap the conventional phrasing of our learning objectives into something that piques at the ego and curiosity of the learners to actually see if they are smarter than the smartest people out there. And then the second recrafted example here, likewise, is something that is more punchy and incites a curiosity, which interests and encourages learners to engage with the succeeding content. Next, adopting a value-first approach in the structuring of your content. So these aligns with one of the key adult learning principles that emphasizes on how adult learners need to understand the relevance and value of what they are learning and why is it important for them. So essentially, we'll be leading each segment of your content with the why of things. And with that, the what and the hows become easier once the why is clear. Now we follow this example here. We conveyed the why of a customer service training using a reflective prompt for learners to reflect on their own bad experiences so that they can better empathize and also realize the impact that they have on customers. And likewise, for workplace safety training package, we use a case study to encourage learners to reflect on the importance of checking their protective equipments and also illustrating the cause of negligence. Now, personally, I also find that this exercise to articulate the whys of each segment, sometimes together with the subject matter experts and your trainers, it is especially useful in trimming down some of the unnecessary or less relevant content. Which brings me to the next point here, right? I believe this point about keeping your learning sessions short and palatable needs little introduction. 15 minutes per learning session has become the new norm, at least from our experience. We've been actually receiving plenty of requests to redesign what used to be 1 hour long e-learnings into a series of smaller independent modules that are 10 to 15 minutes in duration. So in fact, in one of our projects, we actually measured the duration spent by learners on each slide, and we realized that beyond the 10-minute mark, the time spent on each slide became lesser and lesser, which is indicative of some drop in learners' attention and motivation. Now, the next point we have here is about ensuring the alignment of your assessment to your learning objective, because it is an objective measure of whether any actual learning had taken place. However, this is also one of the most common mistakes that we find in existing learning content, where assessment questions created have little relevance to the initial learning objectives. So here's one example on the subject of IT audit, where the key learning objective is on identifying the common security issues in account management. But the assessment question actually touches on identifying the different types of accounts, which doesn't have much bearing on the intended learning objective. Now, I've been speaking for quite a while now. May I just invite all of us here to give this a shot? So take a look at these two questions on the screen and try to identify which one has a better alignment to the intended learning objective. You can just type A or B into the group, into the chat, or unmute yourself to share your response. Okay. Actually, this is a really tricky question because we're really looking into the taxonomies of the verbs that we use here. So actually A is the correct answer, but B is a good try as well. So the learning objective here is to analyze a suspicious email for telltale signs of phishing. And A, the nature of the activity requires you to actually examine and scrutinize the entire email and identify the telltale signs. While B is simply explicitly identifying what are the common signs. So a better learning objective, a more well-aligned learning objective for B is simply to identify the common telltale signs of phishing. So the analyze is the keyword here. Analyze a suspicious email. So A would be the correct answer, but good try. This is a tricky one. All right, next, the use of real-world scenarios and case studies. This is really my go-to design methodology, whether is it in using them to convey content or building them into my assessment questions. And these approach have generally been well received by most stakeholders and learners that we've worked with. And once again, scenario-based learning approach draws upon the key adult learning principles on emphasizing how adult learners need to see real-world relevance and practicality in their learnings. Now, in digital learning design, most times we are creating a learning environment for users to interface with. And in this regard, there is a requirement to have some working knowledge of UI UX design principles. So the salient components, such as your font sizes, the use of colors when applied inappropriately, is actually very damaging to the whole learning experience. And here are some example from the left. So the first one involves a poor contrast of the fonts and the background color and the use of the heavy background colors. We're talking about colors like your red, your yellow, your orange. It's actually very visually straining for your learners and creates an unnecessary cognitive load on them. Now, the second example here is a lack of visual hierarchy and emphasis where text is presented in really large blocks. So, akin to you reading a policy or reading a manual. So, learners do not know exactly what should they focus on and what are the key pointers to take away. And the last example here, where there is inadequate accessibility option in the video, where there's a captions, enabling captions or subtitles. This actually puts non-auditory learners or learners who are less proficient in the language at a disadvantage. Okay, this is second last point. So this is a really essential point to highlight and a common misconception that many continue to hold, and that is equating interactivity to engagement. So put simply, interactivity refers to how physically involved your learners are, and engagement refers to how mentally stimulated and cognitively involved they are. So we want to create learning experience that are engaging and not just interactive, by putting all the drag and drops and click to reviews interactions. So I learned this the very hard way when I used to incorporate an excessive amount of non-functional interactions in my learning experiences, and really got a huge backfire from the learners and stakeholders. So let me show you some examples here. So we have a click to review interaction and a flip cut interactions of over 8 to 9 items that serve little purposes other than to frustrate your users, when I'll be better off just presenting them in a very simple infographic format. Now, on the flip side, here we have examples of your more functional and purposeful hotspots and drag and drop interactions, where where we're reinforcing the visual recognition of deepfake threats on the left here, and also providing a better simulation of real-world decision making in the context of teaching your workers and learners about putting on the appropriate safety gears at their respective workplaces. Right now, finally, the last point here is that a perfect solutions rarely exist. So for every learning modules or digital learning experiences that you're putting out, conduct your UATs, conduct your pilot tests, gather your quantitative and your qualitative feedback from your end users and your stakeholders, and use these data to continue continuously improve your design and your learning experiences for your learners. And finally, some tools to help you along. Some of these tools I've used, I think most of these tools I've used them before. Some are paid, some are free. Some of them are also recommended by my colleagues and people that I work with. So I'm just sharing them with you to help you along in your design journey. So from the left, I believe most of us will know this ChatGPT, Gemini. I personally use them and find it very useful in helping me with copywriting, ideas generation, and sanity checks. So checking of your grammars, appropriate spellings, all this. And then to the right here, if you are creating videos and you want voiceovers, 11 Labs has incredible voiceover, AI voiceover. So simply just type in your text and it creates a AI voiceover for you that you can lay over your videos. So it's a very incredible, and I think it's one of the most affordable platforms out there. All right, bottom left here, visual assets. So you're looking at things like your illustrations, your characters, animated characters, and all the different environments and scenarios. So these are some of the platforms that I use: Canva, Vectizi, FreePic, Shutterstock. There's free and paid versions as well. And then one of the most popular ones out there today, AI video and image generators. Likewise, your Canva, Sora, part of OpenAI, DALL-E, image generation. Lumenfi is a text to video as well. If you're looking to incorporate some video elements in your learnings. Midjourney is I think it's text to image generator, and then Synthesia is another text to video generator, so you can explore them yourself. Then on the right here, animation and video editing tools. I'm using Vion, Powtoons. These are great options. For video editing, I personally use Canva, your Adobe Premiere Pro. And then e-learning authoring platforms. Of course, there's ArcLab. So ArcLab's authoring platform is really simple, and it also has AI conversion capabilities where you just upload your PowerPoints, your training manuals, and it automatically converts them into modules. Articulate 360 is another one. There is AI functions as well. And then we have your iSpring. So these are generally the tools that I use to help me along in the development of the digital learning modules. Yeah, so that's all for my sharing. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Martin. I think it's a really, really useful sharing. And I personally learned a lot. So I got the A and B wrong as well. So to our audience, you're not the only one. I also got it wrong. We're gonna have some Q&A. So if anybody has any questions for Martin, I'll invite you to type it in the chat. While we are waiting, I think we can maybe do a short run through of what ArcLab is, just for folks who may not be so familiar with what ArcLab is. So just one slide. Today's sharing is not about ArcLab, but rather about how to create good digital learning. So I'll just run very quickly that ArcLab is a mobile learning platform, and we're basically like a mobile LMS, right? We are built to be easy. We're built to be lightweight for trainers, for HR, and for learners. And we've built ArcLab to be the easiest way to create, distribute, and track training for the workforce. Like Martin was saying, we built AI into the platform. The two AI features that we have are ArcLab Smart Transform, where we use AI to help convert training PowerPoints into interactive modules on ArcLab, while ArcLab Smart Translate would empower you to create a module in one language, but then the learner can choose to consume the training in his or her native language. And this increases the accessibility that I think, Martin, you had also mentioned just now.
Thank you, James, for the sharing on ArcLab, as well as thank you, Martin, for the insightful sharing. So we hope that everyone has actually taken away a thing or two on how to create good digital learning modules and content for your workforce. So now we'll be actually moving on to the final segment, which is the Q&A. So yeah, we would like to just invite everyone to maybe input 1 or 2 questions into the chat so that we can have a very fruitful
I see
discussion.
a question from Gregory. Okay, I think this is more for ArcLab. Do you provide a trial account for users slash company? The answer is yes. So ArcLab Basic is free for up to 25 learners. So feel free to just I think create an account. I think what we'll do, let me do this. I'll paste in maybe the ArcLab site. So Gregory and anyone who may want to check out ArcLab, just feel free to create a free account. So this ArcLab Basic provides up to 25 learners for free. So thank you, Gregory, for that first question. It's always hard to be the first one, but thanks for getting the ball rolling. Okay, in the interest of time, I think we did have a few questions that were sent beforehand by attendees or people who signed up to the webinar User Clinic. So maybe Joanna, you can move on to that next slide. We do have, these were questions from a few of you who had sent in beforehand. Right, so Martin, maybe first one, for Gen AI, can it help us to create better digital training content? I know you had talked a bit about Gen AI just now, but if you could give maybe some specific examples of how you use it in your module creation or training creation.
This is a very apt question. I think the Gen AI tools there's plenty more coming up, and the capabilities are evolving as we speak. So last year when I was trying out some of these tools, they were not as satisfactory, and this year, in fact last week when I tried it again, I think it's really incredible what it was able to output. So personally, I use Gen AI tools, ChatGPT, really for your copywriting, some gathering of some creativity and storyboarding and scripting as well. Sometimes when I create learning experiences, I want a story, I want a plot, and ChatGPT does great at that. I use AI generated image tools to create really contextualized and unique images. So we worked with Mandai Zoo, and then they had this
Training for the zookeepers,
yes, training on reporting, incident reporting. So one of these incident is when animals fall into uh, pit holes or drains, and then they didn't have any images to illustrate this, and just using text is I thought it would be better to supplement it with an actual image to make it more impactful. So I used Gen AI for that, and they were really happy with the output. Gen AI also use a lot of AI voice generator. 11 Labs, as I mentioned earlier, is really incredible. Text to just input your text, and it provides a human-like voice. I mean, everyone should really try it out. And the fees are pretty affordable. So we use that a lot. We also use Gen AI for language localization. Sometimes we want a Malay voiceover. Sometimes some European language, we can also use that. And based on colleagues, overseas counterpart, they say it's pretty accurate in terms of localization. So it keeps evolving. In fact, what we have today, tomorrow may be different. It may even be better. So these are some of the ways I'm using it, and I believe they will continue to improve over time.
Thanks, Martin. I think really great insight. One of the things about AI is this, right? It keeps improving. So like what Martin said, last year's AI wasn't so good. This year's a little bit better because they keep improving the modules. So we have a question from Pamela. It's related to the third one that we have here, but I'll read out from Pamela. Thank you for that question. Pamela mentions that she has the company that she's in has lots of employee training modules, but they're very lengthy and slightly boring. And so she asked if there were suggestions on how to better break down large and lengthy modules, but still keep all the important info. So thank you, Pamela, for that question.
So earlier I mentioned about adopting this value first approach. So this is a exercise that I personally use when I'm working with my stakeholders, my trainers and subject matter experts. It's for every content segment, we want to lead with a why. So it's pretty effective. I mean, when we sit together and kind of run through and articulate why do learners need to learn these particular chunk of information, and then many times the outcome, the response they'll give, it's good to know lah, good to know. But some are essential. They need to know because of this. But most of the times it's good to know. And when we say good to know, we agree upon putting it at the end, either putting it at the end or just putting it as a hyperlink so that they can visit another portal, intranet portal or shared resource for that information, because good to know information is most often not the essential ones. And these exercises personally what I find very useful in really creating more palatable and distilled learning content. I think breaking them down, let's say you have a 1 hour module, breaking them down into chunks, meaningful chunks, so meaningful topics, more granular, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It's also more digestible for your audience. And then not having them sit through an entire 1 hour module. Yeah, so these primarily are some of the ways that how I work with our trainers and subject matter experts to distill your learning content. But I think overall, working with clients from public and private sectors and also overseas, the trend is the leaderships are now rather open to really condensing their modules. So it's no longer requiring a 1 hour, 2 hour e-learning. 30 minutes, 20 minutes, and most of the time they're requesting now for 15 minutes. So this is the trend that we're seeing now. Bite-sized learning has been commonly talked about for plenty of years now, but I think it's really gaining traction these days, especially with digital media, your YouTube shorts, Instagram shorts, TikTok, where everything is very bite-sized, 1 minute. In fact, 3 minutes is a bit lengthy for me already. So yeah, I think the entire change in environment, the change in the digital landscape is also shaping the leadership's, your executives' mentality about embracing bite-sized and more granular learning modules.
Thank you, Martin. Couple more questions. So next question is from Zarina. Thank you, Zarina. She asked, how can we effectively assess and measure learning outcomes in a digital environment? I think this is tends to be a very important question for all training.
So measuring the effectiveness of a training is to be upfront, it's no easy feat. There are two measures that we often use, right? The first one is the immediate feedback, the immediate experience, how they feel after the learning. So is it very boring? Is it very lengthy? How do you feel? Would you recommend something called Net Promoter Score? Will you recommend this training to your colleagues? Right. So that's one, the immediate experience. Number two is the content, knowledge that they have gained. So this is in the form of your assessments, right? We talked about the assessments aligning with the learning objectives. So of course, if your learners are scoring excellent, perfect points in their assessments that you created, there's a good indicator that your learning modules have achieved their objectives. Now, the third and the fourth aspect of measuring training effectiveness is a little bit more challenging, and it's not something that's commonly implemented and seen through, even for bigger companies. So the third one is business behavioral results. So whether your employees are actually applying whatever they learn at their jobs. And this is through observations, your managers' feedbacks, your peers' feedback. We take, for example, customer service, right? So are your staff actually practicing good customer service? Are they maintaining good body language or eye contact? So these are really true observations. And then the last aspect is actually the business impact. So business impact, we look at your P&L. Are we retaining more customers? Are we getting more upsell? Are we getting more sales in? So training as a whole is a really there is a long-term ROI. The dollar cost return of your training is hard to measure, but it's a continued process. It's not saying that we shouldn't invest in training solutions, because they continue to be essential part of upskilling your workforce and ensuring that you're resilient and future-proof in our rapidly evolving economy landscape. Yeah, so these are some of the ways that generally we measure effectiveness of training. The simple ones, more straightforward ones, the immediate experience, the content, the knowledge that they've gained, and behavioral. Sometimes you're able to manage that and assess that. So through whether they're actually applying what they've learned at their actual job sites.
Thanks, Martin. I think this reminds me of also one of our customers from before had done a pre and post training measurement. So I think mapping it to the business outcome is always very important, right? One of the things that they were trying to, improve was to reduce the number of customer complaints. And so they measured for like 6 months, X number of customer complaints, and then did a training. And after that, measured for 6 months. So with that, you at least have one thing change, and you see that you can attribute a good part of it to that training. So I think that ultimately is one experience that we can share from our work with customers. But thank you, Zarina, for that question. Very great question. And thank you, Martin, for that. One more question from Remy. Thank you for the question. Remy asked whether, in terms of using Gen AI in creating content, are there any concerns with copyright? I think big issue now with like Studio, I can't remember that. Yeah.
Studio Ghibli. It's quite a gray zone, actually. But I think the regulations are evolving. In fact, 11 Labs. So 11 Labs actually, there's actual voice talents that are, how do I say, renting their voices, right? So that we can use them for our own text-to-speech conversion. And the regulations now are such that, you know, they can actually remove their service or remove their voices from the platform, barring a 60 days heads up to all the users. So these are some of the regulations that are gradually being put into place to safeguard, you know, IP, to safeguard your copyright and address these kind of issues. But it's still a gray zone at the moment. But we still continue. I think the merits of using them, I think it's too great to turn down. It's for me. Yeah, we'll see how it evolve over the next few months or few years in this space.
Thanks, Martin. I think this is a tough question as well. There's ethics involved, there's IP protection involved. I don't think that any one of us in the industry has an answer right now. Content creators have one, voice talents have one view, and users have another view. One thing I do think we probably want to think about as well is, are we also we need to be cognizant about not sharing proprietary stuff to anything that you type into any of the Gen AI tools, for example. Make sure that you're not sharing any proprietary information with them. I think that's also something quite important. But I think that's a whole new other topic. We can, if there's interest, we can organize another user clinic on this as well. Maybe in a few months' time. All right. Thank you, Remy. One more question. Oh, so Gregory's question, but I think that's for ArcLab. Let me take a read. Does ArcLab have AI capabilities to enhance and create content in a smarter, easier way, particular for bite-sized learning? Yep, definitely try ArcLab Smart Transform. So this is also present in the free ArcLab Basic tier. Give it a try. As what we had talked about just now, the AI does improve over time. So if you try it today and you don't like what it is, try to maybe reprompt and see whether it improves as well. But one of the things that we believe in at ArcLab is that AI doesn't replace us, the human. It merely does a lot of that grunt groundwork, it does a lot of the heavy lifting initially. But we as the content expert or SME, subject matter expert, or the training professional or L&D, we are the ones who would ultimately press that button. So AI doesn't press that button for us. It creates, I guess, it makes the work a bit easier, but ultimately doesn't replace us. But thank you, Gregory, for that question. Do try out ArcLab Smart Transform. It's available in the ArcLab Basic tier as well. For those who are already our customers, I think maybe have already experimented with it for some time. All right. I think we have time maybe for one question. I don't see any in the chat yet. So maybe this one is interesting for me. Maybe the second question on any tips how to create a good training video, Martin.
I think video creation, video editing in general is an entire profession. But what we can do, putting on multiple hats, is applying some of the principles that we've employed earlier. So keeping it shorter in duration. I think 3 minutes personally. Beyond 3 minutes is pretty long. So keeping it bite-sized, ensuring that you have a clear objective, and then the content is meeting the objective, knowing the audience well. Who are you presenting the video to? Are your users proficient in English language? Do you need additional captions? Do you need language localizations? So these are the fundamentals of the essentials of what you need to do. And then when it comes to storyboarding and scripting, we always prepare a draft. As I mentioned earlier, storyboard. So we always start off with a storyboard, and then draft. What are the scenes that we want to portray? What are the content that we're going to show? What are some of the effects, animation effects or audio effects that I want to add? So having the storyboard gives you a structure and gives you a better representation and feel of what your entire video will look like. And then you put in the meat, the script, whether there's characters that you want to add in. So that are some good building starting points. Yeah, but I think in general it's still work in progress for me. I'm not the best video producer or video editor. It's the media corp does it better, as it's a whole industry on its own. Yeah, but we can certainly apply some of the principles mentioned earlier.
Thank you, Martin. And I think this is a good point to also segue into working with the rest of your organization. No single one of us has all the skills needed. We can upskill in certain areas, but for myself personally as well, I don't think I can ever be a professional videographer. I can learn basic skills. I can't be a professional coder, but I can learn basic skills. But I do have colleagues who does software engineering in our team. I have colleagues who do digital marketing in our team. And maybe working together, it is also able to then create a better training modules for your learners. We have a question by Ayub on, yes, Ayub, thank you for joining us. We will certainly share the slides to everybody. So not to worry, this will be sent to your email. Hopefully we'll do that today. If not, then latest by tomorrow or next week. Thank you, Ayub. All right, I think maybe we'll, in the interest of time, we're already almost at the hour mark. So I'll hand this back to Joanna.
All right. So to our users, both new and old, do remember that ArcLab team is always here to help you should you require any help on ArcLab and anything related to training, digital SOPs, or just want to chat. So visit ArcLab Knowledge Base and Academy link in the description below, by the way. So you may reach us via the chat on the bottom right of your ArcLab screen. We have come to the end of our session. We would like to extend our heartfelt thank you for attending, and I hope that it has been an insightful session for all of you. So we look forward to hosting you at our next event, and we'll just stay for a few more minutes should any of the participants here want to chat with us or have any further questions for us. Yeah, so thank you so much for joining us for this Thursday afternoon.